Welcome to today's video. In today's video, we'll be continuing our Kaiser Domination series. And the first thing is, France doesn't have a lot of fun in this part. But, yeah. With Paris on the verge of collapse, and forces advancing quickly manage to fully occupy Brittany, France. They start advancing forwards, and the front line becomes very bad as Paris falls, followed by a quick advance that takes over Bordeaux. And at this point, France starts to fall. And they completely collapse, and the Germans take over the lands pretty fast, just so they don't need to worry about too many forces getting into that part of the front. And at this point, France falls. But they still occupy it. And a North Africa campaign breaks out. It continues. It's pretty much the end of French North Africa. And they quickly advance across here. And they also liberate Spanish parts of Morocco. With this part of France falling. I'm sure that Britain's pretty impressed, because all of France has collapsed by now. And France doesn't like this. But who cares? Russia tries to launch a counteroffensive. And you may be asking, where do they do it? To keep them with them launching a successful one over here. Although it's successful, it's not successful enough. And they take advantage of this opportunity to march the rest of the way in. And this Russian spearhead seemed great, but it wasn't. And Moscow gets encircled, and with this, Moscow falls, and they start an advance over here into the Caucasus. And they manage to cut, Russia off from this area. And with Russia at this point deciding to capitulate. And nobody really does anything about it, though. Now, to fix the color. To show it's surrendered. And as you can see, that's all a huge loss. Spain is guarded very effectively, so the advances against Spain get very slow, as they manage to build up the defenses. But not right there, no. They continue to advance to the Pyrenees Mountains, where it's really well defended. But in the meantime, they manage to make an encirclement. Then over here, they withdraw, with the troops managing to barely cross it. It's not really enough forces, so Italy decides to land over here. And with their landing over here, they take advantage of the situation to make a landing in Spain. And Spain has been turned into a fortress. And the liberation of Spain is very slow, because they're really holding the front. And they're managing to push to here. And they get pushed back to here. And at this point, Spain becomes back to Spain. And at this point, Spain is in a good place. Not really, but they launch an offensive over here. And with this, another offensive is built towards towards Barcelona. And the city falls pretty fast. And with them advancing along the coast. as they're struggling to start to continue to hold back, with their offenses in the south being a success too. And with this offensive here, they advance to here. At this point, panic in the front lines happen, and they try to retreat. A lot of equipment gets left behind, and a lot of troops, 20,000, end up encircled, and they all fall. Because they have to surrender if they ran out of choices. And at this point, Spain, they changed France to fully occupied. With Spain about to be re-established, it's already is, but fully. As an advance takes over the city of Madrid. And well, these lands of this occupation get pushed back to Portugal. And thus another landing is made up here, with their goal to cut off most supplies from getting in. With them advancing over here, with the forces being pushed towards Portugal's border. And well, at this point, this part falls. And with that, the fall of Portugal begins as the liberation of Spain has been a success. Within the first offensive, an offensive is made, a spearhead that cuts straight across the country and then to the south. And like that, Lisbon falls. And then they advance down the coast in the north towards Porto and they take it. And at this point, Portugal is forced to capitulation. Well, now for the final front. With German forces arriving into the Scottish front line and moving in, with the front line advancing. And well, with them not wanting to surrender, but when the front gets to here, they decide that's their best move, surrender. So that's what they do. They surrender. And just like Russia, they also capitulated. So let's see the peace treaty. Yes, the peace treaty will be included in this one. So let's see it. What's happened? Ukraine's greatly stretched its lands into what was Russia. Belarus done the same. The Baltic states did, and Finland. And they also decided to annex this sizable land. Not annex it, but created a puppet. Germany did. Serbia became a Bulgarian puppet, and Hungary puppeted Romania, which they plan to take land from later. None of these two nations did that. Egypt annexed what's theirs. This strip of land here was annexed by Greece, along with these lands, with Bulgaria gaining a bit of land. Italy gains quite a bit of land from France and French Africa, if we include both. So does Germany. They annexed parts of what would be Algeria. And then, yes, Spain annexed Morocco and... And they annexed Portugal. Why Portugal? Because Portugal attacked them. And Germany gained a bit of lands out of France, same with their Belgian puppet state. They didn't puppet France because it would be too big of a task. And while the alliance goes back to what it would be. Yes, Spain doesn't join it because they don't. Same with Scotland and Ireland, they still don't. Egypt and, well, the Levant. And, well, Germany, Italy. They're back to a team again. Ukraine and the puppets get back from their puppet status. Hungary does some stuff. With this being the German alliance, which I think I'm going to might change the color maybe. And Finland doesn't necessarily join it yet, but they are very well pretty much aligned to them. Well, at this point, that's all that there was for, well, World War too in this series. And thank you for watching. That's all for today's video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Wild Mapper out, and until you subscribe. Bye, guys!